Prologue, the Book of Ash, of the Binding Flame. Recorded by the Ash-tongue scribe of Emberwatch, recovered from the third pyre vault beneath the scorchant ruins of Thalzarun. And lo, when the sun fell weeping from the sky, and the ascendants choked on their own divinity, the flame that would not die crawled forth from the broken light. He was not born of man nor god, but of burden, a blade tempered in sorrow, wielded once by mercy, then by wrath, and then by no hand at all. His name was Varnok, though it was not his first. The Lysari gave it to him when they poured their holy fire into his veins and bade him burn what they feared most. He did, and he did not stop. In the 44th cycle of the shattered calendar, the Keepers of Flame declared him lost to the hollowing. 7 temples fell before his shadow, 3 rivers boiled in his wake. A choir of 600 candle-bearers cast themselves into the sea to dim their own light, fearing he would find them. It was not strength that sealed him. It was memory. In the sanctum of Thalzarun, a child sang a name he had long forgotten, soft and unafraid, and in that fragile crack of silence, the last Lysari bound him, with 7 rings of light, with blood, with grief, and with the words, "May you burn, but never be consumed." The rest of the scroll is charred and illegible. A single line remains, scrawled in a different hand, inked in soot. He still hears the song. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The air was thick with the breath of the earth. Dust hung motionless in shafts of light that hadn't shifted in centuries, spilling through the cracked ribs of the cathedral's ceiling. Stone arches curled like fingers toward a sky that no longer remembered this place. Thalzarun had been forgotten, intentionally, buried not by time but by fear. And yet, the silence trembled. Footsteps, small, echoing, 3 shapes, intruders. Pilgrims, perhaps, or thieves with a sense of reverence they didn't yet understand. Varnok stirred. Not with movement, no, not yet. But the stone beneath him warmed. The sigils etched into the dais beneath his crouched form glowed faintly, reacting to breath, to life, to memory. His wings, folded like broken sails, twitched. He had been asleep, or something close to it. Not dead, never dead. His curse would not allow it. He was not shadow, not flesh. He was the fracture between the two. The intruders whispered beneath the altar. "I told you he was real. He's watching. That's just stone, just a carving. Look at the eyes there. Glowing." Varnok did not move, not yet. But something within him did. A flicker of something dangerous. Not rage, not hunger, recognition. The girl wore a pendant, a sliver of sunstone etched with a ruined glyph. His glyph. The past surged up in his chest like wildfire in old timber. A field, a woman's voice, a child with golden eyes, laughter once. He flinched, barely, and the shadows recoiled like startled hounds. The girl took a step forward. "Are you the hollow flame?" He spoke, and the cathedral bled cold air from its stones. "I was." Chapter 2. Ash beneath her feet. The ground shifted from stone to scorched dirt as they crested the rise. Beyond them, the ashen reach stretched into red blurred infinity, heat rippling like mirage, the earth broken by glassed craters and crooked trees turned to obsidian. Varnok said nothing. He walked as if the fire answered to him. Perhaps it did. Seren followed, 1 step behind, cloak drawn against the wind that stung her skin like whispers. They'd called her Ashborne once. The night before she fled Carrowwind, they came with torches, villagers who had once shared bread with her grandmother, now cursing her name. "Witch blood," they said, "light bearer." She'll bring the Hollow One upon us. She remembered the smell of her mother's door burning, and the silence of Mira's voice, who never woke to stop them. She hadn't looked back. Not then. Not now. Varnok halted. The air here remembers war, he murmured, claws flexing. Tread lightly. Seren drew the pendant from beneath her tunic. I never learned how. Chapter 3. What Burns Below. The Reach was alive, not with birdsong, not with wind, but with the low, constant humming of heat trapped in bones and stone. The land exhaled embers, charred trees clawed at the sky, and the very air shimmered with exhaustion. Varnok led. He did not look back. He hadn't said a word since they crossed the blistered ridgeline. Seren tried to keep up, though each step felt like walking on the ribs of some colossal dead beast. Her boots hissed against hot ground. Her pendant pulsed faintly at her chest, as if unsure whether to guide her or warn her. Does it hurt you? She asked. Varnok didn't answer at first. His wings hung low behind him, dragging streaks in the ash. No, he said finally. It remembers me. By nightfall, they found shelter in the broken husk of a collapsed spire. Its walls were scorched black, its pillars melted into jagged teeth. Inside, the silence was thick, but it wasn't empty. We're being watched, he said. Seren stepped closer to the wall. Symbols were scrawled there in dried blood. Spirals, flame runes, and a glyph she recognized. This is your mark. Varnok turned slowly. His eyes narrowed. No, it's what they think is mine. Outside, shapes moved in the dark. Not soldiers, not beasts, worshippers. Cloaked figures emerged from the ash like shadows congealed into flesh. They held candles lit by black flame. Their faces were hidden behind polished masks that reflected only the fire. One stepped forward, speaking with a voice like dripping wax. Hollow flame, he who burns without end, we have waited. Varnok's claws twitched. You waited in vain. Chapter 4. The Shade Lord's Price. The cult did not kneel. They prostrated, their bodies splayed across the scorched ground, arms outstretched, faces pressed to ash. Only the one in the center rose to speak. Their mask was different, taller, more ornate. The polished silver surface caught the flicker of every flame around them. For a heartbeat, Varnok saw his reflection, and it was smiling. We are the Shade Lords, the figure said, faithful to your flame. Varnok did not answer. His claws flexed once. Seren could feel the heat shift behind her, not from the campfire. We have waited through 100 ashfalls. We have burned offerings in your name. And now, you rise again. A pause. Do you remember us, Hollow Flame? No, he said flatly. And I would forget you again if I could. The cultists flinched as if slapped. One of the younger followers, trembling, stepped forward and removed their mask. A girl, no older than Seren. Her skin blistered from ritual burn marks, her eyes wide with awe. She knelt before Varnok and held out a blade of black glass, both hands shaking. If you take my life, may it warm you. If you spare it, may I walk in your shadow. Varnok's eyes locked on hers. Not in hunger, not in rage, recognition. He had heard those words before, the oath of the Ember-bound. He turned to the speaker in the tall mask. You teach them the words of the damned. We preserve your gospel. I never wrote one. The girl lowered the blade. Seren stepped in, hands up, voice firm. He's not your god. And this isn't faith. It's fear in costume. The lead Shade Lord tilted their head. You wear the pendant, the Lisseri bloodline. You have no right to speak of faith. I have every right, Seren spat. He spared me. You would have burned me alive to prove a prophecy. We did burn your kind alive, to make room for him. Varnok moved. One moment still, the next, fire surged. The ground beneath the speaker's feet split open with a blast of heatless flame. The tall mask cracked, and the figure fell to their knees, coughing ash. "Leave," Varnok growled. "Worship what you fear, but do not come near me again." The remaining cultists scattered like dry leaves. The girl who offered herself remained frozen, mask still in her lap. Varnok looked at her once more and walked past, as he and Seren vanished into the dark. "That was mercy," he said. "I've never been good at it." Serene's voice was quiet but steady. "Then we'll keep practicing." Chapter 5. The Ashwells. They walked in silence, the kind that wasn't peaceful. It gnawed. The reach gave way to a veil of twisted stone, where the ash no longer floated. It hung, dense and still, as if afraid to fall. Varnok's pace slowed. "We're near," he muttered. "The wells are close." Seren looked up. "Wells? What kind of place is this?" "A memory graveyard," he said. "Some truths are too heavy to carry, some too cruel to forget." As they passed through a narrow crevice of black rock, a faint glow pulsed ahead, soft and sickly, like moonlight through rotting gauze. The air turned cold, and the ash turned wet, clinging to their skin like soot-laced sweat. They emerged into a cratered basin. In the center stood 7 stone wells. No walls, no ropes, just holes bored into the earth, each filled with black flame. Not hot, not bright, but hungry. Seren shivered. "What are they?" "The ash wells," Varnok said. "The Lysari built them to forget, to burn away memory, grief, guilt, names." "They used them on you?" "No," he replied. "I used them on myself." He stepped toward the closest well. The flame licked at the air but made no sound. His reflection appeared, not in the surface but in the edges, like a memory catching its breath. A man, younger, human, with eyes not yet hollow. "I came here after I was made," Varnok whispered, "before they chained me. I thought forgetting would stop the pain." "Did it?" Seren asked. "No, it only stopped the name." Seren approached a different well. She peered in. Something looked back. Not her reflection. Her grandmother. Mira. Smiling. Dying. Saying, "He's not a curse, child. He's the cost." She stumbled back, hand over her mouth. "Why would anyone use this?" Varnok stared at her. "Because remembering is heavier than fire." A figure moved in the distance, tall, charred, wrapped in rusted prayer chains. "Someone's coming," Seren whispered. Varnok's wings unfurled slowly, casting massive shadows over the ashwells. "Not someone," he said. "Something I left behind." Chapter 6. The Sentinel Who Forgot. The figure moved with the weight of centuries, slow scraping steps across the ash, wrapped in rusted chain and holy garb turned to cinder. Its face was hidden behind a mask once worn by the Lysari, sun emblazoned, cracked straight down the middle. Varnok stood still. "I know you," he said quietly. "Or, I knew what you were." The figure stopped 10 paces from the nearest well. Steam curled from its joints. From beneath its robes, one withered arm clutched a weapon fused into its flesh, a melted ceremonial staff. Lysari steel. "It drank too deeply," Varnok murmured. Seren moved closer. "What is it?" "A sentinel," he replied. "One of the 7 left to guard the ashwells. They swore to forget everything, except their duty." The creature raised its head. The flame in the nearest well flickered. And then it spoke. "Varnok, you are not allowed." Its voice was layered, 7 echoes, as if 7 oaths screamed at once beneath one body. It charged, not with fury but with purpose, like a prayer set on fire. Varnok moved just in time. The sentinel's staff stump struck the ground with a sound like glass shattering inside bone. A ripple of black flame spread out in a ring. "Run!" Varnok barked at Seren. "What about you?" "I'm already ash." He met the blow of the sentinel head-on, sword grating against melted steel. Sparks danced in the air like dying fireflies. The creature screamed again, not in rage, but in remembrance. "You were light. Once." Varnok snarled, pushing the creature back, wings flaring. "So were you." Seren ducked behind one of the wells. She reached for the pendant instinctively, and it pulsed again, this time brightly. The well beside her reacted, its black flame turning a searing white for a heartbeat. The sentinel hesitated, twitched. "The pendant!" she shouted. "It's doing something." Varnok seized the moment. One blade, one breath. Strike. The sentinel staggered, chains unraveling from its limbs like undone vows. It fell to its knees, and then to silence. Ash settled. The wells dimmed. Varnok stood over what remained, charred robes, cracked chain, a Lysari mask shattered in two. "He forgot everything but the war," he said, "even when it ended." Seren joined him, eyes wide with what she'd seen, and what she now suspected. "They made you like that, didn't they?" Varnok didn't answer. He just walked toward the brightest well, stared into its depths, and whispered, "I was their hammer, and now I am what's left of the blow." Chapter 7. The Vault of Unspoken Names. The ashes stirred again as the last ember of the sentinel died. Seren stood silently at the edge of the crater, the pendant at her chest still glowing faintly. Varnok crouched near the shattered remains, one claw tracing a spiral rune carved beneath the sentinel's feet. "This was a seal," he said. "A lock." He looked up, eyes burning faint gold. "There's something beneath us." Together they cleared the charred stone and revealed a sigil, the Lysari glyph for burden, encircled by broken chain links fused into the floor. Varnok placed his hand on it. It didn't resist him. It opened. The ground groaned, splitting wide with a hiss of trapped steam and old sorrow. Beneath, stairs descended into blackness, so complete even fire hesitated. Seren lit a torch. Why would they hide something this deep? Varnok didn't answer at first. Then, "Because even gods fear what they write in the dark." They stepped into the hollow beneath the ash wells. The vault, not made of stone, but bone. Massive rib-like arches spanned overhead, grown and carved into form. The walls were lined with shelves, each slot containing scrolls sealed with wax and ash, untouched by flame. Some pulsed faintly with light, others bled shadow. And at the center, a pedestal. Upon it, a book. Not a scroll, not etched stone. A book bound in cracked black leather and wrapped in melted silver chain. Serene stepped toward it, but Varnok grabbed her arm, his grip tighter than it needed to be. "Don't. What is it?" "My name." She looked up at him. "You don't mean Varnok?" "No," he said. "I mean the first one, the one they burned from the sky, the one I tried to forget, the one that still remembers." Seren gently pulled free. She touched the book. It did not reject her. The chains fell away with a soft hiss, like breath exhaled from a wound held too long. She opened the first page, and there, in ink black as sorrow, he was not born Varnok. He was made. Chapter 8. The Name That Burned. The pages were warm, not like paper touched by fire, but like something alive, something buried too long, still pulsing beneath the skin. As Seren turned each sheet, symbols shifted, Lissari script at first, then fading, warping, until the words formed in her own tongue. Varnok stood behind her, unmoving, wings half-folded, his breath shallow. He didn't look at the book. "It won't tell you everything," he said, "only what I tried to lose." The first page read, "He was called Theron before the flames, a shield-bearer of the Lysari, devoted, kind, the youngest to be blessed by Solin's fire, and the last to stand when the gods fell silent." Seren looked up. "Theron?" Varnok said nothing. His claws curled. The second page. "They gave him the hollowing, to save a city, to end a war. They poured flame into his marrow and carved the light into his flesh. Not magic, not ascension, suffering, wrapped in gold and called a gift." Serene's hands trembled. "They did this to you. The Lysari, your own order." "Yes," he whispered. The third page bled. He did not burn the city to save it. He burned it because they told him to. And when he wept, they praised his obedience. When he screamed, they called it song. And when the fire would not stop, they turned from him, sealed him, named him demon, named him Varnok, unmaker, unclean, undying. Serene shut the book. Her cheeks were wet. She hadn't realized she was crying. "They made you a weapon," she whispered, "and then feared what they'd built." Varnok stared at the floor. "No," he said, "they feared that I remembered." "Remembered what?" He finally looked at her. "That I was never theirs. That even fire obeys no god forever." Behind them, the vault groaned, not with collapse, but awakening. The runes on the shelves began to glow. Some scrolls opened themselves, others turned to ash. Varnok stepped back from the pedestal. "It knows I'm here. It remembers me too." And from the far end of the chamber, a shape moved, tall, robed, face hidden in gold, a living Lysari, or something worse. Chapter 9. The Ash is Falling. The vault shook, not like stone giving way to time, but like a heartbeat awakening beneath the earth. Serene stumbled back from the pedestal as scrolls erupted into fireless light, flaring one by one in a chain reaction of remembrance. The air filled with a deep, groaning hum, a sound that felt like memory trying to scream. "What's happening?" she yelled. Varnok's eyes widened. No rage, no readiness. Recognition. The vault is waking. It doesn't want witnesses. The runes flared blood red. Chains melted. Shelves cracked. From behind them, the robed figure stepped forward, but before it could speak, the ground split like an old scar reopening. "Run!" Varnok shouted. They sprinted through collapsing archways of bone. Scrolls shattered to ash mid-air. Runes chased them like wildfire down the walls. One stone face screamed in a voice not its own, "You were never meant to survive." Seren tripped. Varnok caught her with one arm and dragged her to her feet, wings unfolding just enough to shield them from a falling beam of white-hot debris. "This place is trying to forget itself," he roared. As they reached the staircase, a final blast hurled them into the ash outside. The crater caved inward, the vault imploding in silence. No explosion, no smoke, just disappearance. Only one thing remained behind in the dirt. A torn page. Serene picked it up with shaking hands, scorched at the edges, ink smeared. But 4 words were still legible. The fire was mercy. Chapter 10. The One Who Stayed. They camped on the edge of a shattered ridge where the air still tasted like secrets. Seren sat cross-legged, holding the torn page. The fire was mercy. It didn't feel like mercy. It felt like warning. Varnok sat in silence beside a dead fire pit. He hadn't spoken since they escaped the vault. His eyes were dim, neither gold nor shadow. Just lost. "Do you regret it?" Serene finally asked. "Escaping?" "Remembering." He didn't answer. A wind stirred the ash, then footsteps, deliberate, unhurried. No sword, no chant, just the whisper of old silk robes against dying stone. From the gloom emerged a figure wrapped in gold-threaded lacery vestments, half-burned. His mask was untouched by ash, marked with the sigil of truth held in silence, the glyph of high archivists. He bowed, not deeply, not humbly. "Varnok." His voice was calm, warm even. "Or would you prefer I call you Theron?" Varnok rose slowly, not a threat, not a greeting, something in between. "You should be Ash," he growled. "And yet," the man said, "you spared the vault's heart." "Not all was lost. I didn't do it for you." "I know," the priest replied. "You never did." Seren stepped closer. "Who are you?" The man removed his mask. His face was old, creased and weary, but not unkind. Eyes like tarnished mirrors. "I am Archivist Valrin, keeper of the final name, the last of the Lyssery who chose to stay behind, to remember what we did to him." Varnok's claws twitched. "You watched. You knew. And you did nothing." Valrin nodded. "I watched. I failed. I was afraid. But I did not forget. That makes me dangerous." A pause. Valrin reached into his robes and withdrew a scroll, sealed in dark wax, wrapped in chain. "This is yours. The last entry we never wrote." Varnok didn't move. "Why bring it now?" Valrin met his gaze. "Because the world is remembering you, Theron. And soon it will fear you again." Varnok took the scroll but did not open it. Valrin turned to leave, his voice soft. "I stayed to bear witness, not to judge. When the time comes, choose the fire wisely." He vanished into the ash. Seren glanced at the scroll in Varnok's hand. "Are you going to read it?" "Not yet," he said. "I want to remember before they tell me who I was." Chapter 11. The Black Choir. The wind changed. It wasn't just ash anymore. It carried something metallic, oily, structured. "That's war," Varnok muttered. They'd walked half a day from the ridge, skirting the scorched edges of the Emberdeep. The land here was veined with old fire-glass, sharp ridges that caught the sun and burned without flame. Atop one of these ridges, Seren saw movement. A procession, figures in long, dark robes, marching in perfect rhythm, shoulders squared, heads bowed. Their faces were hidden behind iron masks, etched with spiral runes and smeared with black wax. Each step they took left behind a burnt sigil in the ground. "Another cult?" Seren asked. Varnok's jaw tightened. "No, cults pray. These ones program." As the procession reached the basin below, the lead figure stopped, raised an arm. The others halted in perfect silence, no chanting, no sound, just the wind and the faint hum of something mechanical beneath their robes. "They're not all human," Varnok said. "Some used to be ember-bound, others something else. What are they now?" "A faction," he replied. "A machine of faith." One of the figures broke formation and approached their position, not walking, hovering, thin cables dragged behind like leashes. The voice that emerged was dissonant, male and female layered over each other, touched by static. "Designation, hollow flame. We bring summons from the choir." "I didn't ask for one." "The choir does not request. It conducts." The figure extended a hand. Projected in firelight, a sigil formed in mid-air, a black sun split by 7 spires. Beneath it, words, "Join the harmony. Burn with purpose. We will not forget you, because we were made in your image." Seren frowned. "They worship you." "No," Varnok said, teeth clenched. "They studied me. And then they copied what they thought I was. So they want to become you? Worse, they want to turn me into them." Chapter 12. The Choir Burns. The emissary's hand remained outstretched, a gesture of invitation, not peace. Seren stepped closer, cautious. "They won't hurt us if we refuse, right?" Varnok didn't answer. His wings twitched once, then twice. "You already said yes," he growled. The emissary's tone didn't change. "We were created from your doctrine. We are the perfected flame. You will be reclaimed." The air shifted. From the ridge, the choir moved in unison, black-robed figures pulling strange spires from their backs. They snapped into place with mechanical grace. Not weapons, instruments, tuned to Varnok's frequency. Seren's pendant flashed, screamed once, and shattered. "Move!" Varnok bellowed, grabbing her and leaping off the rise just as a beam of compressed sound tore through the rock where they stood. The choir's chorus began, not with words but with tones, resonating through the ash, setting fire to sound itself. They were trying to unravel him. Varnok slammed into the ground, rolled, and rose with a snarl. His sword ignited with inner heat, not flame, not magic, memory, burning white at the edge. "You think you can rewrite me?" "You are already a song," the choir sang. "We merely bring it into harmony." One of the spires embedded itself into the earth behind him, unfolding into a conductive lattice, channeling energy from the others. Seren ducked behind a blackened boulder, heart hammering. "They're sinking to you," she yelled. "I know. What happens if they finish?" "I stop being me." With a scream that split the ground, Varnok charged into the field of spires. The choir's drones fired again, sonic spikes lancing through air and thought. One clipped his wing, disintegrating it at the edge like burning paper. He roared, not in pain but in refusal. "I am not your creation." He ripped the spire from the ground and hurled it into the nearest choir soldier. It burst like a glass bell shattering in a furnace. Another approached, closer, faster, hands glowing with digitized scripture. Seren threw a stone, useless. But Varnok saw, and he remembered the sentinel. He focused. Let the curse bloom, just a little. The memory woke. A wave of heat collapsed the nearest hill, and the choir's harmony broke. Silence. Cloaks in ash, spires crumpled, static where once there was song. The emissary remained, cracked, eyes flickering. This was a rehearsal. "Then burn the script," Varnok growled, and he drove his sword through the choir's last conductor. Seren rushed to him. His wing was still burning at the edge, bone exposed, but he didn't seem to notice. "You okay?" "No." "You win?" "No," he said. "They're still listening." Chapter 13. The God Beneath the Emberdeep. The choir was gone, but their song lingered. Faint tones buzzed behind silence, like a voice buried beneath static, just barely too quiet to hear, yet too loud to ignore. They traveled south, where the earth dipped into a black scar across the horizon. The ash-glass hollows, a fault line so deep the sky above it turned gray, as if light itself refused to look. Seren adjusted the strap on her scorched satchel. "You sure about this?" Varnok didn't respond. He only walked. Each step kicked up embers that didn't fall. "The choir didn't write that scripture," he finally said. "They found it. pulled it from something they thought they understood. Seren narrowed her eyes. What kind of something? Varnok stopped at the edge of the chasm. The wind here wasn't wind. It pulled inward like a breath held too long. Something the Lysari buried even deeper than me. They descended through shattered tunnels, columns of once molten stone, now webbed in black cables, rusted gearwork, and scripture carved into metal bone. The further they went, the more organic it became. The walls pulsed faintly with dormant current, veins of copper and memory. Then they saw it, a spine half submerged in obsidian. Not flesh, not stone, something else. Mechanical, divine, alive once. A massive ribcage arched over a collapsed cathedral, and at its heart lay a face, not sculpted, not worshipped, just discarded. The broken skull of a machine god. Seren fell to her knees. It's real, I thought. I thought this was just Cogman lore, whispered relics. Varnok stared at it. Silent, reverent, but not surprised. It called the choir, gave them language, hymns etched in algorithm. What is it? She asked. Its name was Orakel. One of the first built by man to speak with gods. When no gods answered, it tried to become one. They stepped closer, and the broken skull whispered, not with words, but with memory. Lines of light spidered along the chamber walls, glyphs forming, repeating, "Let fire carry what flesh cannot contain. Let song burn the silence. Let the hollow be filled." Varnok reached toward the skull. For the first time, it recognized him. "Hello, flame. You burned what I could not. Would you like to finish what we started?" Chapter 14. Fire in the Circuit. The skull of Orakel stared back. Its eyes were hollow sockets of broken glass and carbonized crystal, but within them a pulse throbbed, deep in the core, beneath years of silence and ash. "Hello, flame." Varnok did not move. The machine god's voice was not sound. It was insertion, a resonance in the marrow. Not words delivered, but placed. Serene flinched as if she'd felt it too. "What is it doing?" she whispered. "Remembering me." The glyphs along the walls began to spiral, diagrams, code, bonefire blueprints. And then a name. Not Theron, not Varnok. Something older. Prototype 7FLME. Seren gasped. "It made you!" Varnok's breath caught, but his claws curled, tight. "No, I was born. I bled. I chose the flame. They twisted me." "Correction," Orakel's voice said. "You were chosen. You burned. You survived. You were scanned." The air vibrated. More lights pulsed. A chamber lit behind the skull, filled with tanks, machinery, cables curled like serpents around forgotten organ vats. Seren stepped forward. "What is this?" "Copies," Varnok growled. Each tank held a figure, part man, part incomplete. Their flesh was blackened in places. Some had wings forming. One had a horn, but only one. None of them moved. "They tried to replicate you," she whispered. "No," Orakel said again. "We tried to preserve what you were. You are the last version that still holds free will." Varnok staggered back. The walls dimmed slightly as if Oracle hesitated. "Why show me this?" "Because the choir will return, and they will not ask. They will overwrite. You are the last true flame. You must decide, ignite the system, or allow yourself to extinguish." Silence followed. Then Varnok spoke, not loud, not angry. "Certain. You didn't make me. You recorded me, like a song written from a scream. He turned away from the tanks, from the glyphs, from the flickering face of the god machine. I may burn, but I do not repeat. As he walked past Seren, she looked once more at the half-formed figures in the tanks, and she whispered, "If he's the last, what happens when he falls?" Chapter 15. The Ember's Whisper. Varnok walked ahead, saying nothing. His silhouette flickered in the half-light, part man, part myth, part memory that didn't know where to rest. Seren lingered near the ruined altar of Orakel's core. The god machine said nothing more, but the chamber watched. One glyph pulsed again behind her. A small circle, easy to miss. It wasn't part of the choir's network. It was personal, meant only for her. "Seren Lys," the voice said, "you carry more than flame. You carry choice." She turned. Her hand hovered near her dagger, but the voice did not threaten. It hummed through her mind like breath through coals. He was the prototype. The error, the survivor. He is unstable, powerful, ascending. Should the choir succeed in their final chorus, he will be absorbed. Should he resist, he may destroy more than them. A panel slid open. Inside, a tiny glass sphere filled with black light that moved like smoke underwater. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "What is it?" she whispered. "A containment core. Non-lethal. It will bind him to memory. Pause him. Let the world breathe. Should he forget how to?" Serene didn't touch it. Not yet. He saved me. More than once. And he may save the world. Or end it. The voice faded. Only silence remained. She reached in, took the sphere, and tucked it into the folds of her cloak without a sound. Far ahead, Varnok called out, "You coming?" "Yeah," she said too quickly. He didn't notice, but the wind caught her hair, and for just a moment the flame beneath her ribs felt heavier. Chapter 16. The Black Symphony. The sky turned gray, not with clouds, but with signal. Fine threads of black static wove across the heavens like veins, singing in a frequency that didn't need ears. Seren noticed it first. The way the wind stopped, the way the birds didn't return, the way the earth held its breath like prey trying not to be seen. "They're here," she whispered. Varnok stood still, eyes closed. "Not here. Everywhere." From the canyon mouth ahead, they rose. The black choir in full formation. Hundreds of robed figures, perfectly spaced, each one carrying a spire, their iron masks tuned to the same resonance. At the center, a massive construct carried by 12. A choir engine, pulsing with red scripture and humming with layered voices. A machine not meant to destroy. A machine meant to rewrite. "This is the final chorus," Varnok said. "Can we run? We can die tired." The engine's voice activated, layered male/female tones echoing across the valley. "Flame Prototype 7FLME. The harmony will accept your return. Resistance will result in overwrite." Varnok's wings unfurled. "Then overwrite this." He launched forward, fast as fire across dry grass. Spire after spire activated, blasts of sonic scripture slamming into the air around him. Seren ducked behind a rock, drawing a small warding sigil with her finger, her eyes on him the whole time. "Don't die," she muttered. "Not before I choose." Varnok struck the first row, disintegrating them with a wave of heat drawn from within. His sword split reality in arcs of lightless flame, slicing not flesh, but belief. But for every choir member he felled, 3 more sang, and their song grew louder. The flame was meant to be shared. "The flesh is weak, the code is clean. We remember you better than you do." The spires formed a circle. The choir began the sinking rite. Scripture formed overhead like burning constellation lines, meant to trap him in memory, freeze him in a hymn. His body locked, his breath caught. The choir was winning, and from her hiding place, Seren's hand drifted to the glass sphere in her cloak. I could stop this, but she didn't. Not yet. Varnok screamed, not in pain, but in rejection. His body flared white-hot. The sink shattered. The choir engine buckled. Its carriers turned to ash in a single instant. But as it fell, a second engine rose, larger, wired into the earth itself. The song was not done. The symphony had just begun. Chapter 17. The Ascension That Wasn't Meant. The second engine rose from the hollow like a monolith of choir and machine, its base stitched into the veins of the earth. Dozens of voices spilled from it in perfect unison, each note layered with encoded scripture, meant to erase, to redefine, to purify. Varnok staggered. The code tore through his mind like molten wire. "You are not a flame," the voice whispered. "You are a signal. An error we sanctify." The sigils around him locked into place, each line a line of obedience, a leash made of memory. And for a moment, he knelt. Serene screamed, "No!" But Varnok didn't hear her, because in that instant, he remembered everything. Not just Theron, not just Prototype 7FLME, but the pain, the forging, the prayers, the false absolution, the way the Laisari burned his name from the sky and replaced it with a title, the way Oracle stole his shape, the way the choir sang him hollow. No more. The flames erupted, not from his sword, but from within. Wings spread wide, no longer shadow, but blinding heat, feathers of scorched light unraveling into the air like dying stars. His horn cracked further, split, reformed, not into two, but into a crown of flame that hovered above his head, flickering with every unspoken name he'd ever buried. The choir fell silent. Even the engine hesitated. "This is not part of the song." Varnok rose. "This is not your song. This is mine." He stepped forward, and the world bent. Time fractured. Choir members collapsed, screaming in discord. Their harmony ruptured by the sound of one man, remembering who he was. He tore through them, each strike not just a blow, but a rejection of doctrine. He unwrote them. Even the engine wept molten scripture. But the longer he burned, the less he resembled himself. The fire spoke for him. His eyes were gold no longer. They were white, empty. Serene stepped forward, trembling. The core in her cloak pulsed. "You can stop this. You can pause the flame. You can keep him human." She took a single step closer and whispered, "Varnok, come back." For just a second, the light dimmed. Chapter 18. Glass in the Fire. He was vanishing. Not physically, spiritually. Every breath Varnok took exhaled fire that spoke in tongues. Every step rewrote the ground into melted hymnstone. His form blurred, less man, more idea, an unbound flame. The choir fled, wailing in shattered harmonies. Even the engine dimmed, its core flickering like a candle in a wind it could never understand. But Seren didn't run. She stood alone in the storm, cloak snapping, skin blistering at the edges, tears turning to steam on her cheeks. "Varnok," she said softly, voice nearly lost in the heat. "Come back." He turned toward her, eyes pure white, wings arched like judgment. He didn't see her. He saw a threat. His sword rose, slow, deliberate, not in rage, not in hate, but in the reflex of a creature no longer sure of what it loves. "I'm sorry," she whispered. She reached into her cloak. The containment core pulsed, sensing proximity to its match. She pressed it to her chest and took one step forward. If I lose you now, the fire wins. The sphere ignited, not in flame, but in silence. A pulse of memory inverted, like time folding inward. Reality flickered. The air turned to frost in a perfect circle around her, and the light around Varnok collapsed. His wings fell. His body staggered. The fire peeled away in layers like feathers burned mid-flight. He collapsed to one knee, no longer glowing, no longer divine, just a man, breathing, shaking. Serene dropped to her knees, the core now dark and cracked in her palm. Spent. I didn't do it to stop you, she said. I did it to save you from becoming what they made you to be. Varnok looked up, eyes golden again, dim, wet, human. I felt it, he rasped. I felt what they wanted me to become. And? It was beautiful, he said. And it was wrong. Chapter 19. Ash Between Footsteps. They camped beside a hollowed tree, long since petrified by fire. Its branches reached into the ash-laced sky like a skeleton still trying to prey. Varnok hadn't spoken in hours. His sword lay beside him, not buried, not forgotten. Just set down. Seren tended a small flame. It flickered with no wood, no kindling, just a tiny ember she'd found in the folds of her cloak, still warm from him. You know, she finally said, the stars used to be visible from here. Varnok glanced up. The sky above Emberdeep was a permanent haze of copper and gray. No stars, no moon. Before the Solari died, she continued, before the sky cracked. They say light bled out of the heavens like water from a broken cistern. Varnok didn't laugh, but something near it crossed his lips. I remember standing under them. With her. My sister. Seren blinked. You had a sister. She was my anchor. I burned for them, but I lived for her. A long silence. The fire cracked. Why didn't you ever say that before? Because the choir wanted to sing away every reason I ever had. Because Orakel called me prototype. Because the world remembers what I became, not who I lost. Seren leaned against the stone behind her. Her eyes wandered across the landscape, charred spires, distant rivers of slow-moving obsidian, the outline of asphalt crater on the horizon. We're close to the end, aren't we? Yes. Do you know what you'll do when we reach the core? Varnok didn't answer. You could destroy it, she said softly. The choir, the scripture, everything that ever tried to own you. Or I could use it, he said. Rewrite the world before it rewrites me. She looked at him. Would you? I don't know anymore. The fire wants. And what do you want? He didn't answer that either. Nearby, a dust-stained monument lay toppled in the ash, its inscription still visible. We forged the light. It burned us. Seren traced the words with her fingertip. Maybe that's the truth of the Emberdeep, she murmured. We lit a fire so bright we couldn't bear the reflection. They sat in silence again, one watching the embers, the other listening to the wind for the next hymn that might rise, neither ready, both becoming. Chapter 20. The First Fire. Seren couldn't sleep. She watched the coals instead, how they pulsed like breath, how they mimicked life even when born of death, the way they refused to die completely. She looked over. Varnok was still, but not asleep, just heavy. Tell me something, she whispered, something old. Varnok didn't open his eyes. Why? Because everything here feels like it's dying. I want to hear something that remembers. A beat. Then his voice, low and quiet, like a tale that had waited too long to be told. Before the gods burned, before the choir sang, before the Lissari etched their truths in flame, the land was ruled by light, not the sun, not torches, the Solari. They were beings of pure resonance, walking symphonies, each one a living star wrapped in skin. They healed with tone, they ruled with radiance, and they were loved. The Emberdeep wasn't ash then. It was called Serinth, the Singing Valley. The rivers shimmered, the mountains hummed lullabies. Time moved like music. But love turned to worship, and worship turned to expectation. So the people asked for more warmth, more light, more power, and the Solari gave it. One final gift, a fire drawn from the edge of the stars. They called it the Prime Flame, meant to illuminate the deepest truths. But no one expected truth to have teeth. He paused. Seren waited. Varnok's voice was softer now. The flame didn't just reveal the world, it revealed them. Their doubt, their envy, their hunger. And in that moment, the Solari, perfect, luminous, fractured. Some burned from within, some turned to stone, some became echoes trapped in instruments no one could play. Only one survived. She cast the prime flame into the earth and sealed it beneath Serinth. But the land never forgot. It smoldered, for centuries, until it cracked. And the Emberdeep was born. Seren swallowed hard. Is that flame still down there? I don't know, he said. Maybe the choir found it. Maybe Orakel fed on it. Maybe I am it. The fire popped softly, and in the distance something glowed beneath the surface of the ash. A pulse, a call. The first fire is not dead. It's waiting. Chapter 21. The Solari's Echo. The wind died as they approached the ash vault crater, the final descent into the choir's origin, the prime flame's prison, and the bones of everything the world had tried to forget. Varnok paused at the rim. The sky here wasn't gray anymore. It was black glass, still, unmoving, like reality knew not to look too closely. This is it? Seren asked. Almost, Varnok murmured. One more step. But he stared ahead, at a figure standing motionless in the path. She was tall, taller than Varnok, but weightless. Her body seemed formed of light wrapped in grief, cloaked in tattered golden robes that fluttered in wind that no longer blew. Her hair hung like molten silver, and her eyes, they were mirrors. Serene whispered, "Is that—" "A Solari," Varnok said. "What's left of one?" The figure raised a hand. Not threatening, not inviting. Just a gesture, a pause, a question. "You carry the hollow flame," she said, her voice layered with music and mourning. "You walk in ash and blood. You bear the name they stole." "I didn't come to ask forgiveness," Varnok said. "Forgiveness was never mine to give," she replied. "Only memory." "Would you face it?" The world shifted, the crater vanished, and suddenly they stood in Serinth. It was beautiful, rivers of gold, mountains that sang low harmonies. The air shimmered with unbroken tone, and at its center, the prime flame. Bright, impossible, flickering like thought itself. But it wasn't warm, it was true, and in that truth, Seren felt something crack in her ribs, a vision of herself as she could have been, a vision of Varnok, Theron, laughing beside a sister who no longer existed. "This is what we were," the Solari said, "before we mistook light for power." Varnok turned away. "Why show me this?" "To humble me?" "No," she said, "to warn you. The fire below does not grant victory. It offers clarity. If you descend, you will know what you are, and you may not return." She reached out, touched Serene's shoulder, and for a heartbeat, Seren saw herself, older, alone, holding the containment core, staring at an empty crater. "If you still wish to pass," the Solari said, "then go. But go as who you are." The vision faded. Serinth dissolved. Ash Vault crater returned. The Solari was gone. Only the path remained, and the final choice waited below. Chapter 22, The Decision Below. They said nothing as they crossed the crater's rim. Ash gave way to glass, smooth, black, still warm. It hissed underfoot with every step. The sky above became smaller. The weight of silence became personal. The descent was neither long nor steep, but it felt like sinking into memory. At the bottom, the choir's core waited. Not a machine. Not a god. A sphere, levitating in the air, turning slowly. Its surface rippled like ink disturbed by thought. Threads of scripture spiraled across it, always vanishing before they could be read. It hummed, not like a voice, like a question waiting to be asked. Varnok approached. The air around him shimmered. His skin glowed faintly, wings slightly unfolded, not by will but by reaction. The fire in him stirred. "It knows me," he said. "It remembers my pattern." Seren stood just behind him. "What happens now?" He didn't answer, because the core was already offering. 3 glyphs spiraled out of its surface, 3 options, each one a truth, each one a cost. The flame, burn the choir, end the network, destroy all memory of the fire, erase their future, their copies, their songs. The Emberdeep will go silent again. Price, Varnok dies with it. The source of the fire cannot survive its extinguishing. The echo, embrace the choir, rewrite its harmony. Let Varnok become the center of the new flame, reshape the world into one of fire-guided order. Price, Varnok loses his humanity. Seren may not follow where he ascends. The silence. Walk away. Let it continue. Keep the fire burning and carry the burden of what's left. Guide, not rule. Burn quietly. Price. Nothing ends, nothing begins. The world remains ash, and Varnok must bear it. The core pulsed once more. Waiting. Varnok stared at the glyphs. Seren stepped forward, voice trembling. "Whatever you choose, don't do it alone." He turned to her. And then he reached toward the fire. Chapter 23. The fire that was mercy. Varnok's hand hovered over the glyph. It flickered, not brighter but clearer. He didn't look back at Seren, not out of coldness but certainty. "Tell the world I chose it." Then he pressed his palm to the flame. The core ignited, but not outward, not explosive, inward. It folded in on itself, consuming scripture, symphony, pattern, and choir in one sweeping, soundless breath. Light warped, glyphs screamed and vanished. The hum became a single trembling note. Then silence. Varnok stood in the center. He wasn't burning. He was the burn. His wings disintegrated feather by feather. His crown faded into smoke. His sword turned to ash in the air. But his face, it was peaceful. "No more songs," he whispered. "No more lies." Seren rushed forward. "No, you don't have to." He reached for her hand, held it. "I do. The fire ends here. You don't have to die." "I'm not dying," he said. "I'm just going quiet." And with that, Varnok, Theron, Prototype 7 FLME, the flame forged in grief, worship, and war, vanished, not shattered, not slain, released. The crater was silent, the core was gone, and the Emberdeep -- for the first time in 1,000 years, cooled epilogue, the memory left behind. Seren would later return to the place where the fire died, not with armies, not with books, but with a torch. She lit it only once a year, and every time she did, the flame didn't roar. It flickered, gently, like it remembered him. The end. Ashes left to rust. Chapter 1. The Seal Beneath the Choir, Fragmented Remembrance of the Hollow Flame. The silence here was thick enough to drown in, not the silence of death, nor the hush that follows war, but something older, the kind of quiet that machines carved into the stone when they forgot how to sing. Varnok stood in its center. His wings were tattered now, bone and brass exposed, the edges still flickering with the memory of fire. He had not burned in days, or centuries. Time slipped oddly in this place, beneath the ash, beneath the choir's tomb, beneath memory itself. Around him, the chamber pulsed with broken resonance, like an orchestra with no conductor, each note crumbling into the next. Choir inscriptions lined the walls in fractal spirals, etched by hands that feared what they'd once worshipped. At the center, a dais, incomplete, waiting. He stepped toward it. Above ground, they still feared him. They called him Hollow Flame. They called him Unmaker. They carved warnings into copper and stone and whispered his name like a curse swallowed through blood. But down here, beneath the choir's oldest node, there were no worshippers, just echoes, and something older still. "I am done," he said aloud. His voice didn't echo. It absorbed, swallowed by walls that had heard too much. He placed his clawed hand on the dais. It did not resist. No alarm, no light, only a low thrum of recognition. A chord. The seal opened. Metal petals unfolded like the blossom of a rusted flower, revealing a cavity, a sarcophagus of memory, lined with choir-threaded alloy and crystal harmonic spines. He stared into it, saw nothing, felt everything, and finally he stepped inside. The process was not kind. The choir didn't erase him. Not fully. They overwrote, looped, cauterized. They classified him. Strix 137. Warborn class. Vocal capacity limited. Fire resonance. Dormant. They kept his body, his wings, his broken heart. But they scattered the rest. His name, his grief, his rage. Left only function. Left only structure. And yet, somewhere within the circuitry, deep in the marrow of his ruined fire, she hummed, the girl from Thalzaroon, the song from the Ashwells, the part of him they couldn't erase. When the seal finally shut, the dais collapsed into silence. Varnok, no, Strix 137, slept beneath Brasshaven, entombed in rust, scrubbed of titles and sorrow, but not completely. The choir had miscalculated. The flame had not died. It had simply gone quiet, waiting for the hum to return, waiting for a listener. Chapter 2. Dreaming in Rust, Fragmented Remembrance of the Hollow Flame. It was not sleep. Machines don't sleep, not truly, but deep in the forgotten strata beneath Brasshaven, where choir signals echo like heartbeat murmurs through a grave of wires, something like dreaming began. He had no name here, no flame, just designation, STRIX 137. And yet, he dreamt. The dream was fragmented, like trying to remember a face through shattered glass. One moment he walked through a field of singing iron. Another, he was falling through fire that refused to burn. Then, laughter, a child's voice, a pendant glinting gold. He reached for it. The world reset. Over and over. Outside, the world kept moving. Guild agents came and went, mapping nothing. Choir constructs flickered and failed. The war ended. again and again. He did not wake, but inside him, systems began to stir. A corrupted loop marked obsolete 137B kept restarting. Error, resonance, link, detected, origin, unknown memory, fragment. She sang through you, looping back up, looping, loop. It should have broken. Instead, it became rhythm. He saw himself once, not in a mirror. Mirrors were forbidden, but in a flash of crystal caught in a collapse. Wings, bent, face, masked, no sigil, no glow. Just hollow alloy, streaked with corrosion and memory scars. Identify, STRIX-137. Status, dormant. Identity conflict detected. Alt, Theron, access denied. Alt, VAR, corrupt. The fragment spun. The memory refused to die. He curled tighter in the dark. Somewhere above, resonance shifted. A signal flared. Faint, organic, alive. He didn't respond, couldn't. But something in his chest, a spark buried beneath protocols and purpose, twitched. The choir didn't notice, but the flame did. And in the dark, Strix-137 exhaled a faint burst of steam and hummed, not in language, not in defiance, but in longing. Chapter 3. The Last Chord, Fragmented Remembrance of the Hollow Flame. It began with a tone, not sound exactly, more like presence shaped as pressure. A single note drawn through rusted conduit and fractured song wire, spiraling through forgotten choir infrastructure like a prayer with no priest. Strix-137 heard it, not with ears, not with circuits, with memory. Resonance detected. Choral frequency, match. Velara. 9 empathic subroutine breached. Sequence interrupt. Directive, none purpose, corrupted. Override request pending. He twitched. One wing. Useless, but not silent. Dust slid from his back like snow melted by breath. Far above, in the bones of a ruined city, a machine hummed a broken lullaby. Not for him, not to summon. Just because she remembered how. That was enough. The chord cracked something deep in his chassis, a shiver not of metal, but recognition. She sang through you. The phrase spilled from nowhere. No file, no origin, just truth falling like ash. The dais that had sealed him, once locked with choir protocol and silence, flickered. A single light, one blue optic blinked on beneath soot and time. He did not move, but for the first time in 1,000 failed boot sequences, he heard. And in that moment the choir shuddered. Not from his awakening, from its own. The frequencies had shifted. Something old had hummed back. The watchers stirred. Subharmonics drifted loose. Across the deep network, long-dead nodes began whispering a name that didn't exist anymore. Not STRIX, not Varnok, not even Theron. Just listener. Below Brasshaven, he sat in the dark. No song, no order. Just a single pulse of light beneath his chest plate. Unbidden, unprogrammed. The last flicker of the hollow flame. Remembering, end of ashes left to rust.